So after I made that video on Alexander the Great, specifically a quote that he's known for saying, "If I were not Alexander, then I should wish to be Diogenes." After that video, somebody actually sent me a DM, somebody who joined the Discord, which, by the way, feel free to join, links in the description. He sent me a DM basically just sharing his thoughts on it. And I wanted to share it with you guys because it really made me happy that you guys are actually understanding these nuanced aspects of my life philosophy and how I see things. It's so beautiful how the algorithm kind of connects like-minded individuals together, because if I were to talk about these things to a regular person, I think it would be really difficult for them to tie in all the nuanced details together to fully understand how the overall philosophy comes together, because I don't see anybody tying these things all together. But I really do think this is the ideal way to live life, revolving around living true to your biology. Speaking of which, by the way, I have a predictions channel inside of the Discord where I post predictions encoded, and they're predictions of what I believe people are going to say in the community. One, for example, is something that seems like I'll just tell you what it was. So the prediction I put was that somebody's gonna comment something along the lines of, "We have gone in a circle, living congruent to your biology equals just be yourself, bro." You know, the classic just be yourself line that obviously everyone in the black pill community clowns on. And I wanted to explain that, yes, I acknowledge people are going to, on the surface, think that, but I was really happy to see that the person who commented this first, because I knew eventually it would happen, they said it's on a higher level. And that's very important to understand with it, because it is on a higher level. If you're just a normie and someone tells you to just be yourself, you actually can't just be yourself, because you don't understand yourself. You don't understand the genetic truths of life. You don't understand these types of things that they don't teach you in the school systems, that they don't teach you on surface level YouTube and general consensus content. So you need all of this understanding of genetics, and all of this was pivotal in your journey still. So don't feel like you've gone in a circle completely. But it is a funny joke nonetheless to say like we've gone in a circle. So I figured someone would eventually comment that. Someone did. So yeah, that was the first prediction coming true. I have another prediction in here as well. This is simple stuff to decode, so whoever catches it, you probably could. I'm going to private the channel and post some more predictions in here. Join the Discord and, we'll see. I really enjoy interacting with this community because, like I said, you guys actually understand these things. And people in regular life, it is very, very rare to come across people who are thinking about these niche kinds of autistic things, because that's what it is. And, I don't mind admitting that. Anyway, so regarding what the guy said, how he summed up his thoughts after watching the video, I'll read it to you. "I saw your thumbnail to your video about Alexander and Diogenes and thought about that, how if Alexander wasn't Alexander, the hero, the superhuman essentially, he would wish to be Diogenes. So if he wasn't blessed to be a hero, he would wish to be able to let go like Diogenes did, as Diogenes truly didn't care and let go." And that's exactly what I try to touch on in my videos about being true to your biology. For example, that one guy who's trying to be alpha, the guy in the thumbnail who basically gets arrested for trying to be like extra alpha, and it's incongruent to his biology, the incongruency pill. Yeah, he just needs to accept his genetic reality. He's trying to step out of his role. If Chad had behaved in such a manner in the right environment, that wouldn't be a big deal. And again, that's an outlier case, that's on an extreme example, but there's truth to that in every single scenario, no matter how minor. So that example is obviously very extreme, but it's to help you guys understand the concept better. So yeah, this guy clearly understands that, some people, they're born to be Alexander. Some people, there may be the overwhelming majority of people are not born to be Alexander. They're born to be Diogenes and just to accept reality. But that concept of being born to be something and born to be another thing applies to every realm of human endeavor, or not even human endeavor, just human existence, human being. So, like, the beta versus alpha is just one example. Like, some men are meant to be primarily alphas, some men are meant to be betas. Um, Obviously, like, we'd all love to be alpha, but some people with their genetic makeup, they actually might be better off playing true to more of the beta traits, like trying to focus on just being the nice guy, trying to focus on being a good guy, and you'll still be able to, in this modern environment especially, those traits like altruism, those traits like kindness and sympathy, those are going to be positively selected for as well, especially for actual reproduction. When the woman is, getting older, she's done having her fun with the bad boys, and she's ready to have kids without protected sex. There's the betas waiting for them at the finish line. And obviously, there's a huge stigma to this. And personally, I find it repulsing, of course. But we have to acknowledge a truth that there are plenty of sub fives out there that are not going to be able to generate that desire no matter what they do. Well, not no matter what they do, because if they achieve extremely high status and money, they actually, I do believe they might be able to in some cases, but they're outlier cases, of course. The point is, we have to acknowledge the fact that while, yes, there's stigma to that, and yes, it's not ideal, and while personally I find it repulsive, there are going to be some men that have to settle for that. And it's either they settle for that or they live completely alone and they don't pass down their genes and their genetic lineage ends with them. And I also agree that there's some guys who just prefer to maintain, the self-dignity, and just remain by themselves and then just let their genetic lineage die out. And, that's a whole video we have to dive in on itself. Like, weighing the pros and cons of allowing your genetic lineage to die out and the consequences that follow that, the mental burdens that follow indirectly from that, which are against your will because it's just a biological truth that that's going to happen, compared to the repercussions of having a kid with a fucking whore, because that's, again, not ideal. Anyway, the point is, like, in any realm of human endeavor, in any realm of human existence, some people are born to be some things based on not only their genetic makeup, but also, environmental factors during their upbringing, while significantly less important. It primarily is almost all genetics. I'd encourage you to read the book Blueprint by Robert Plowman. It's a really great book, and it'll explain to you that environmental factors don't have a significant effect on the reason, like, on average, you'll see that there have been environmental factor changes is because it's those outlier cases where there were extreme examples, something like having PTSD from war or being abused as a child. Those extreme outlier cases are sufficient to throw off averages of correlations with IQs and parents, things of this nature. So it's kind of a misleading thing, and Robert Plowman points this out. But overall, it's mostly genetics. A little bit of a tangent there, but anyway, I'm going to go on with this comment. As Diogenes truly didn't care and let go, and that's kind of cool if you think about it, how Diogenes can just accept things to be for how they are and live so completely free, if you know what I'm saying. Kind of like the concept you talked about some time ago with Fight Club. And I'm so glad he referenced this as well. In my video on the future of the black pill, I talked about how eventually all this looks maxing stuff, all these gray pillars who are just getting their feet wet in the black pill community, they're going to go through the passages, they're going to go through the phases that you watching the video, who might be a deep black pillar, if you've been in this community for many years, they're going to go through those phases that you also went through. Like, you went through the red pill phase first, and then you went through the gray pill phase where you're looks maxing and you still have hope. Like, you realize, okay, looks matter, but there's hope. I could improve my looks. And then you get to the real black pill after that, realizing that it's the things that matter mostly are beyond your control. Your genetic makeup, your DNA, that's really what matters for the most part. And look, that's a whole topic. Obviously, some people are going to be able to looks max and achieve insanely good results. Some people, negligible results. There's so much nuance there. We're not going to go off on that tangent today. We've also talked about it and addressed it many times. It's surface level black pill knowledge. But yeah, I related it to the philosophy in Fight Club, how Fight Club, it's all about like just letting go and not caring. And I really love that mindset. But I explained I have a dilemma with that mindset, particularly when it comes to ambition. Hence was the purpose of that video about that quote and the dilemma, or not dilemma, but what Alexander the Great admits. Alexander the Great concedes that there is wisdom in what Diogenes is saying. And before you say that he was clowning Diogenes and like mocking him, they had a relationship where, think of it like big brother, little brother, where Alexander never really disliked Diogenes, even though Diogenes like said some disrespectful things about how, hey, I was looking through a pile of bones and I could not separate the bones of a slave from your father. And that's a great concept, which is related to Stoicism as well, which we'll dive into eventually. How Alexander and his mule driver were both buried the same way. That's a very famous concept. But fuck, I lost the train of thought. Give me a second. Okay, yeah, so how Alexander the Great recognized the wisdom in this, and he still, wanted to conquer the world. And this is where I talk about my dilemma with it personally, how I feel like my genetics combined with also someone made a comment that they believe the environment and my upbringing, is important as well. And I agree with that. Like I mentioned before, like there is an influence, even though it's not as big of an influence as genetics, it still is an influence. And so I replied to him, well, is that environmental influence of my upbringing and my childhood and the things I experienced sufficient or insufficient to where Stoicism could offset that environmental factor? Because you have to see it like an equation, right, for how you determine your ideal way of living true to your biology or just true to yourself. It's like, okay, so you combine your genetics, most of everything, with the environmental factors you've already experienced. Okay, with that, I am choosing the route to be very, very ambitious. Now, you bring in Stoicism. Stoicism you could see as like a subtraction sign, a negative. Can Stoicism be sufficient to subtract out all of those prior environmental factors? The same way you watching any of these videos right now, are any of these videos sufficient to influence the way you're going to live your life? It's just an environmental factor, one of which is beyond your control. Again, hence I say there's no such thing as free will. So the environmental factor of me studying Stoicism for 5 years or so, could that be sufficient to throw off my entire childhood and upbringing and my mentality that was grown to like prove people wrong, and have that desire, and thus making me more ambitious? And at the moment, I'd say no. Maybe it might be different with 30 years of Stoicism, but currently I don't feel that's the case. And so I feel true to my biology, true to myself, I'm living true to my biology by being ambitious. I think I'm coming to that conclusion where that is congruent with myself. And this leads me to a greater point about different philosophies in general. Like we look at someone like Stoic philosophy and like that Tyler Durden like mentality of just letting go. Self-improvement is masturbation, not caring, not trying to be perfect and all that. And then you contrast it with someone's like Nietzsche's philosophy of, actually saying that there is something great to be found in characters like Napoleon, characters who achieve such greatness. And you contrast these philosophies, brilliance on either side, and it's like, how can one be right? Like, how can both be right at the same time? And what it comes down to is that they are both right for different people. Oh, wow, what a surprise. How insightful. Philosophies are better for some people. Like, you have to find your philosophy, but that's it. Like, that's really it. Some people are better off adopting more Stoic mindsets, and other people are more better off adopting certain philosophies from Nietzsche. And you like pick and choose. It doesn't have to be black and white. Like for me, I mostly embody Stoic philosophy. Like that's a huge part of my life philosophy. But then there's that one thing that I have a self dilemma with, and so I take that away from Stoicism, and I might dive into Nietzsche because that's something that resonates more with me for the reasons that I explained. It's true to my biology. So anyway, as you could see, this gets very nuanced. Like how I was explaining the equation of this is very autistic, very nuanced. If I'm like talking this way to somebody in my life, they're just getting lost. But the fact that this guy like understands where I'm going with these things, and he's like tying the concepts together from different videos, it made me very happy. So thank you for sending me that DM. I appreciate it. Next, he also said, because also he is Alexander, he is wired to be Alexander the Conqueror, which is congruent to his nature, or maybe it actually isn't even all that congruent to his nature because societal pressure, etc., but whatever. And Diogenes is someone who he knows is really living congruent with his nature, so he wishes he is able to be Diogenes in case he wasn't Alexander. And that's just perfectly put. Like the guy understands the nuance of the dilemma there, and the fact that Alexander does appreciate to a degree what Diogenes believes and how he lives. Because remember, like they mocked each other, big brother, little brother type relationship. But at the end of the day, and I think this was where I lost my train of thought earlier, but at the end of the day, Alexander did respect many, many philosophers, and he knew to deeply consider what they had to say and their perspectives on life. And Diogenes was no different. I mean, Diogenes did some stupid shit out in public, public indecency, but you can't let a situation like that take away from the underlying wisdom in some of the things that he was living true to. And Alexander saw this, he recognized this, and when they would tease each other, it's not like animosity kind of teasing. It's like big brother, little brother. And, like, think of it like this. Like, Alexander's, like, putting his arm around Diogenes, like, all right, you little fucking retard. You might have a point there. All right. Like, you know what? You might have a point there. Think of it like that, if that makes sense. So, yeah. I read this DM, and it made me pretty happy that this community is kind of like forming. Because I don't just want to make videos. Like that's not why I've been having so much fun doing this. The reason I've been having so much fun on this Raw channel is you guys, like interacting with people who actually understand this autistic way of thinking. So. And again, that's not saying I'm smart. I'm not smart. Like, this isn't like smart. It's just like we hyper focus on very different things. That's it. Okay. My IQ is 87. I gotta test it. All right. Let's just gonna wrap it up today.